This episode, where we get more screen time of Peridot, all the while that the Crystal Gems are trying to stop her droids that will keep launching into different locations. This episode was a lot more different considering that I've seen bits and pieces of Peridot when it came to screenshots and reviews. And I'm gonna say this right now, when I first watched this episode for the first time, it really feels like there was a lot going on involving Peridot's character. Not because of the fact that she was made to design gadgets and electronics and whatnot, but mainly the fact that she was taking her mission seriously in comparison to how she portrayed in the season 2 finale and onwards. Because I'm gonna say this right now, when I saw Peridot being a lot more over the top when it comes to the end of season 2, well, I did watch that episode in 2016. I really had a lot of questions centering around the world building. Then in 2020, Marble Madness is mainly a standard episode where we get more of Peridot, while the Crystal Gems try to take down her droids. And as far as I'm concerned, they've been doing this for so long that it's becoming a lot more repetitive that they want it to stop. When they tried to stop a really big droid that landed in the desert, Steven came up with an idea by being on top of the droid in order to figure out where the droid is going to. So the droid uses the warp pad to go to the kindergarten. The droid itself transforms into a pad that takes them to the Prime Control Room, which is where Peridot does most of the work in order to figure out more solutions in order to get back to Earth, but due to Garnet, who destroyed the warp pad at the end of Warp Tour, she is unable to succeed, which explains onto why there were multiple droids keep falling on Earth in order to have her accomplish her mission. There really isn't a lot to say about this episode, to be perfectly honest. Mainly the fact that it just shows more screen time of Peridot doing her thing by doing orders with Little Diamond, all the while that the main characters are trying to stop that from happening. But then again, considering that we're getting more characters and we're reaching to the end of season 1, they really are trying to make the later seasons a lot more different, either for the right reasons, but at the same time there are the Beach City episodes. But no matter if it really affects the character development sacrifices, I still don't have a problem with that. But then again, when I get to them, I'll describe what I enjoy from them. But when it comes to this episode in particular, I still found it enjoyable, even if it's not as good as the other episodes. But then again, it's mainly a work in progress when it comes to Peridot's character, when it comes to before becoming the character that we all know and love in season 2, and the fact that this is an indication that there's a lot more going on that Steven is really unprepared with. Because as far as I'm concerned, even if I'm not going to revisit Full Disclosure, since I've already talked about that episode 3 years ago, I can still remember of how Steven is mostly taking the stuff seriously in comparison to how he portrayed in this season. The climax of this episode, not one of my favorites, but it was actually somewhat of a unique way for Amethyst, Pearl, and Garnet trying to use the machinery that Peridot is using it and using it to destroy the system of the Prime Control Room. Honestly, I remember this slightly more in comparison to seeing Peridot's dialogue when it comes to her interacting with Steven for the first time. I'm gonna be really honest, when I saw this interaction, it was humorous to see Peridot witnessing that there's a Steven, not to mention that this actually foreshadows the final episodes of season 4. This show really had a structure that really feels like Rebecca Sugar was thinking ahead of time. Then again, I'm not repeating what I said before, but I'm just proving that Rebecca Sugar had ambition when it comes to sorting these episodes. Not really much to say about this episode, so for me personally, I'm giving it a 7.25 out of 10. It's a unique episode for what it is, and it does showcase this Peridot's character despite reforming in season 2, but at the same time, this is mainly an episode that I had the least to talk about, but that's mainly what happens when I'm reviewing a lot of episodes that I have the least to talk about. But with that being said, we're finally reaching to the episode that I have wanted to talk about since I binge watched this show back in 2020.